Alright, good morning. Let's go over today's trade plan. So in the overnight session we saw that the buying that we had yesterday continued into the overnight session, and ES ended up testing the 88 quarter to 90 quarter resistance and found responsive sellers at that area on first test, and from there the market simply balanced within a range. Now heading into the open, yesterday we saw some sustained buying in the market and we broke above the recent 2 to 3 day range. But the real test is going to be today to see if now we can hold on to those gains. Overnight so far the markets are holding up pretty well, and above the 1883 to 1885 pre-market support zone, the buyers are firmly in control and could make a run for higher prices yet again. And we have the naked VPOC at 90 quarter, the overnight high that can be tested again, and from there, because we've already balanced ahead of that area now, and the zone's already been tested and provided a reaction, at this point, if we start heading higher, especially after an econ release, we could just go through it and tag the 94 to 96 initial resistance zone, perhaps find some sellers over there, and then we have the all-time high at 98.5. So as long as the other markets are holding up okay, ES looks all right above 83 to 85, and then the internals also are showing strength, or at least not showing any weakness, because in order to really get an upside breakout, ideally you want to see broad market strength. You want to see the NYSE advanced decline consistently heading higher, the S&P advanced decline consistently heading higher. You want to see better tick readings on the upside as opposed to the downside. And if the picture remains this way, so TF doesn't liquidate like it's been doing recently, NQ holds on to its overnight gains, TF holds on to its overnight gains, ES maintains above 83 to 85, and the internals are also at least not bearish, then we have to give edge to the buyers here and expect a move up to 94 to 96. On the econ front, we have existing home sales at 9 a.m. Central, so the first 30 minutes could be continued chop, or we could even get a little bit higher price even off the open. But I think that the day's theme and the day's bias will be more clear after the 9 a.m. econ releases are out of the way. Now after that, we really are going to be watching on where ES is trading in relation to that 83 to 85 zone. Again, ideally, if you're going to get continued strength, that zone holds. But if it breaks, it doesn't necessarily mean that sellers are now purely in control, because ES could simply balance at higher prices overall. It could go down to 79 to 80, find buyers there, and then shoot back up again. It could even go down to 74.5 to 76.5 and find buyers at that zone. The only thing that we have to be cautious of if we break the overnight lows, we just have to watch the internals, the tick, the other markets, and gauge whether this is just a normal pullback following a strong day, or are the conditions telling you that this is potentially a completely failed breakout, and the move can completely reverse. So if the internals, for example, are getting extremely bearish, so that would be the S&P advanced decline below minus 300, the NYSE AD pushing below like minus 1300, tick showing a lot of momentum and the market pushing lower on higher volume. If that happens to be the case, if that's how the picture looks in real time, then at the very minimum it calls for caution on buying the support zones, because then we could be setting up for a deeper pullback to yesterday's low, 74.5 to 76.5, and first test I still expect a buy response there just based on trade location alone. It's a very key area, but the idea is that buy response going to completely reject and go back up, or is it just going to be a short-term bounce and then head lower? And by watching the internals, watching the other markets, and the character of price on how it's heading lower, right? Is it going down in one huge move, which would tell you that there's a lot of momentum behind it? Then you want to be careful on the long side and perhaps, on if it is a high momentum move, then maybe even get positioned short on the bounce back up, right? So that's something we'll have to gauge in real time. But the 83 to 85 or 79 to 80 can almost serve as like a short-term bull bear zone, where if it's holding above, you know that there's some firm strength on the upside. So you don't want to short early in this type of market, where at least for the time being, the buyers are firmly in control. And as long as we can maintain these gains, hold above 83 to 85, or at the very minimum 79 to 80, then I think that we are setting ourselves up for a test of higher prices. The 90 quarter already tested overnight, but we can certainly go back up there in the day session quite easily, and even up to the 94 quarter gap, and then perhaps find some sellers there or near the all-time high at 98.5, and then start balancing. So those are really the main ideas. In the other markets, I'd like to see TF at the very minimum hold on to its overnight lows, and ideally it holds above 1102. But at the very minimum, we don't want to see it, putting in a big break below the overnight low, very similar to the 83-85 area. And on the upside, we have that recent swing high around the 1113 to 1115 zone. And after that, we have 1117 and 1121, with 1121 being the big major HVN in TF. So if ES is really going to put in a sustained upside breakout, then TF should be heading up to 1121. And on NQ, similar story. We want to see it hold on to its prior gains, yesterday's gains. So at the very minimum, I'd like to see NQ holding above like the 36.21 to 36.25 area, but ideally, it holds above yesterday's high and its overnight range. So right now, those are the main thoughts heading into the open. Again, first 30 minutes could be some continued balance, or just kind of stuck in a range. And then after 9 a.m. Central, I think we'll have a much better idea of just the overall bias on the day and which side's really pushing and which side's in control. And then if the buyers are maintaining control, I think you're better off, positioning yourself to buy pullbacks and target a move up to 94 to 96. This 90.5 is important. This is a important area, but it's already been tested. So that's why I'm not giving it as much weight anymore. I think that if we start heading back up, we will go through it. So the main upside objective is 94 quarter, and after 9 a.m. Central, if we're still holding on to the pre-market support, then we could position ourselves for a move up to 94 quarter, target that as a exit on the morning long setups. And then depending on how the market's shaping up at that time, there may be a short setup there, but with buyers in firm control, it's something we'd have to see in real time. It's not an automatic fade zone. We would have to see some weakness, or we'd have to see the other markets hitting some major resistance in order to consider shorting the market at these higher prices. So those are our main ideas. Let's see if the buyers were able to maintain and hold on to the gains this morning, and then take it from there.